game away. Blow up. We're playing for something, man. We're playing for something. This gotta mean something to you. It gotta mean something. Everything you got. Everything you got. Let's finish this.
Do it, fellas.
Let's go.
Let's do it, fellas.
Finish 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Finish.
Look, I'm through with this false persona. I can't do the Mr. Goody two-shoe shit any longer. Y'all check y'all hoes at the door while I'm putting it on her. Feel less responsible for my actions when I say I'm on the edge and these niggas just keep harassing. Killing people I love, man, this shit just a crime of passion. I know this isn't me, boy, stop asking me what didn't happen. I've been talking to my demons, y'all really thought I was capping. Now y'all scared cause you found that I'm really about all the action. Don't do the pretend shit, all of my problems for instance. Tugging the cheek over tension, nice that we can barely mention. I would say I moved on, but I know that shit hard to convince it. I sleep at ease when she pull up like a hardy convention. Never been harder to fit in. I know niggas, no pot to piss in. Needing assistance. Also, no niggas ran plays with pistons. Both old wisdom. I sleep in silence, knowing everything good with the profit. I checked the summary last month, made 11 deposits. Everything is big up on the boy, feel like Christopher Wallace. Strong arm the game, who gon' stop him? That nigga too brolic. I've had enough of they twisted logic, that shit retarded. I question everything. I made the wrong choice between a paddock or a wedding ring. Hope you catching everything. They get goosebumps when I spit like when a net is seen.
Well, Dick, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff. You know, I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine. If you ain't first, you're last.
And just like that, it's over. Just like that. The NFL season ain't over. But that shit about to be. But listen, I appreciate y'all for joining me on another episode of Kicking It with Saint. To all my 15 subscribers, I just saw that the other day. I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate the views. I appreciate liking, subscribing, sharing, all the interactions with the video, comments, whatever you do to help me. I truly do appreciate it. I know I cannot show you my appreciation at the moment, but one day I will be able to. So I do appreciate you. Now, the 2022-2023 NFL season has come to an end. The regular season, I should add. Once again, shout out to every single player who put their bodies on the line this season that did not make it to the playoffs. Hopefully the payout was compensation. Obviously, it's not enough for everybody because some dudes didn't really make that much this year. But you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Unbelievable finish to the season, might I, if I don't say. The Seattle Seahawks will make the playoffs as the 7th seed and take on the San Francisco 49ers, who have the 2 seed. What a end to the season. Green Bay in a win and you are in scenario. Could not pick up a win against the Detroit Lions at home. Detroit really ended the season of Green Bay because they beat Green Bay in 2 important games this season. And is this the end of Aaron Rodgers? It looked like it might have been. He had his arms around Randall Cobb leaving the field. He kind of looked like he was taking it all in. It could possibly be the end of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. What do I think? I think it's a strong possibility that we could have seen Aaron Rodgers' last game as a Green Bay Packer or possibly as an NFL player because it just don't strike me. I don't think Aaron Rodgers, unless somehow he could find a way to get to Las Vegas, I don't really see him wanting to play for another team. The only reason I would say Vegas is because that's where Devontae Adams is at. But aside from that, I don't see him wanting to go play for another team. At this age, I think they say he 39. I don't see Aaron Rodgers wanting to uproot his life. I understand he not probably in a relationship. He's not married at least. And he don't have kids. So I understand how hard that is for people who is married with kids, but you know, I don't know Aaron Rodgers' life. I'm not going to say it would be easy for him to just uproot his life and go move to Vegas. Nor do I know if he would want to do something like that. And who knows if the Packers would want to trade him. You know, the Packers could still want to keep him for that last year, his contract next year. So who knows what happened with Aaron Rodgers at the end of the season. But if this was the last game of him in Green Bay. It would be kind of funny to me if he left Green Bay and went somewhere else, because I believe Tom Brady's last pass as a Patriot was an interception in a playoff game. Aaron Rodgers' last pass for the Packers might be an interception to miss out on a playoff game. I don't think the Packer fans should be too, harsh. I don't think you should be harsh on Aaron Rodgers at all, considering I know I've been critical of Aaron Rodgers this year, but that's just because it's how the year done rolled. You know what I'm saying? I gotta do what I hope is my job one day. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna be bullshitting around. I mean, it was times where he deserved to be criticized, but that being said, this season don't taint his legacy, in my opinion. I just think bozos are the ones who say, oh, this could affect Aaron Rodgers' career. I don't think this affects Aaron Rodgers' career. This is one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. Did he win at the level of a Tom Brady? No, but who did? I think a lot of people try to put people in put a lot of people in the Tom Brady light, not realizing Tom Brady is an outlier, the ultimate outlier. In a sport where quarterbacks usually don't win more than 2 or 3 quarterbacks, 2 or 3 Super Bowls, and that's for the greats of the greats. So to me, Aaron Rodgers is solidified. His legacy been solidified. I do think this could possibly be the end of Aaron Rodgers altogether, for the simple reason it'd have been different if this year was just completely okay, so this year, I think the reason the Packers struck, and I stood up for the Packers defense a lot. The Packers defense played a trash game tonight. The Packers defense could have played a completely better game, and this would have led to a win for them, because I think the offense actually they played good enough. Obviously, they resulted back into the bad. The problem with the Packers offense is they cannot sustain a throwing offense for the majority of a game. So if they get into a situation where they have to throw the ball, they're not going to succeed, because they don't have that type of offense this year. And the thing is, it was times this year where I understand Aaron Rodgers looked bad because he no longer had Davante Adams and they did not adjust the offense to that. But Aaron Rodgers looked bad at times this year also. It looked like he might be old. However, if Aaron Rodgers would like to come back and play, because I'm not in I don't really like forcing legends to retire. I would prefer to see a legend go out on their own, like absolutely know that there's nothing left in the tank. Which is why I had no problem with Brady unretiring. So I truly do believe if Aaron Rodgers can get to to Vegas, I feel like he should try to get to Vegas before he consider retiring. And I really think the Packers should allow him to do that if he want to get there, because to me, they need to get ready to start over. They need to get ready to move on to Jordan Love, see what they got in him. Because you don't got this, you got a great head coach in Matt LaFleur, I believe. And I think you're really going to see how great Matt LaFleur is next year if he don't have Aaron Rodgers, because now you're going to see him with a Jordan Love, and you're going to see his influence a lot more in the offense because he don't have a dude with the resume of an Aaron Rodgers. So I do believe that the Packers will be fine. I don't think the Packers should be worried too much about missing the playoffs, because I just think this is one of them years where management just didn't. To be completely honest with you, I just think management is more of a problem than anything that I saw on the field, because management is the ones who put teams in these positions to come up short at times when you really take a step back and look at what happened. I understand management tried to re-sign Davante Adams. I get it. They even offered him a bigger contract than what the Raiders did. However, you did not replace Davante Adams. I understand going out and getting Christian Watkins, but Aaron Rodgers ain't no young quarterback. He don't have the time to develop with that dude. Aaron Rodgers needed a legitimate, bona fide, proven number 1 receiver. Point blank, period. They did not go out and get him that. After not going out and getting him one to put beside Davante Adams all these years anyways. And that showed up this year with his lack of chemistry with the other players around him. And if you have gone out and gotten him another top level receiver while they had Davante, then you lose Davante, but you still have that other receiver. I think a lot of the things, and I'm not completely saying that the Packers just did Aaron the ultimate disservice. Aaron were not completely blameless. However, it's hard for me to blame Aaron Rodgers with as good as he done been throughout his career. And now when he 39, try to say, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is the reason the Packers can't do this and that. That's just insane. They had so many years of wasted Aaron Rodgers primes where they did not do enough for him. I can't get mad at Aaron Rodgers' body for not just being able to do what he used to do in his prime. It just is what it is. Not to mention, as much as I could say, oh, well, he didn't spend enough time with his receivers in the offseason. I don't know how much time he spent with his fucking receivers in the offseason. Also, to me, you can say that, but it still don't matter because he shouldn't be in a moment where he should need to spend this type of time with his receivers in the offseason. He should have dudes that he been playing with that's good enough for years where he got that type of chemistry. And I know some people will blame Aaron Rodgers and say, well, he was too Devontae dependent. That's where you should have went out and got another receiver to play opposite of him. And then people could say, well, they should have ran the ball this year, like I had been saying, and they didn't. Well, I could say that, but it's hard to really blame Aaron Rodgers for not wanting to, for an old dog to have to learn new tricks. He wanted to die on that sword of him always being the man for Green Bay. It's hard for me to get mad at him for that. My critiques this year was to get Green Bay to the playoffs, not because I didn't like Aaron Rodgers of Green Bay. I love watching Aaron Rodgers play. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch all time. However, with all the criticism that you could throw in Aaron Rodgers' direction, I really cannot throw that much criticism at him. Could he have played better, made better throws and this and that? Sure. But I'm not finna blame that in year 30. At the age of 39, I'm mad that he couldn't make certain passes that he made in his prime. It was plays he made tonight that should have been caught that weren't caught. It's hard for me to blame a dude that's 39 years old at the back end of his prime or finally out of his prime. Like, I understand he won an MVP back to back these last 2 years. So it's hard to take that away from, it's hard to not see that and still blame him. Cause you're like, well, he was just in his prime. He just won an MVP. But the way age and Father Time can work sometimes, this shit's a slippery slope. Now, I do believe we would have saw his prime exit a little bit slower and not been it wouldn't have been as visible as it was this year if he have still had Devontae, but he didn't, which is why I truly believe if Aaron Rodgers decides to retire, it will be because he can't get to Vegas. But if he does want to play again, I really think he's going to try to find a way to get to Vegas, because why would he try to go out there and play with not to mention, let's just say it's a hypothetical out there where he's staying in Green Bay. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they at the end of the road with him in Green Bay. I just don't think it's nothing left there for them to do. Let's say they do keep him in Green Bay. You got to go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is a tradable player right now at the back end of his prime. That's not going to kill you, going out and getting him. You have to go out and make a signing and try to see I think you should trade for the DeAndre and bring in Odell after a full year of him being able to recover, and try to sign another big time vet name. Like, I think you should try to stack the deck for Aaron Rodgers to have as many weapons as possible, so that his last year, because I don't think this should be his last year. I think Aaron Rodgers I think he gonna think this is his last game in Green Bay. But if he can sit back and just, analyze everything that I've been through, I think, and realize that a champion on the level and a player of the caliber of Aaron Rodgers should not go out like this. I really think he could come back. But this is the problem. Will Green Bay go out and make those requisite moves and the necessary moves to bring him back? Because I don't really think it's on Aaron Rodgers right now. Aaron Rodgers is probably fighting against his body to keep playing. He's been hurt all year. He's been dealing with injuries all year. It's nothing for him to say, I don't want to deal with this no more. I'm ready to call it a career. It'd be very hard for him to say that, however, if you go out and get him a brand new core of receivers that's top-notch proven receivers. And I'm not talking about you got to go out and spend crazy bread, but you could have went out and traded for Amari Cooper like the Browns did. That would have made a huge difference. You could have went out and traded for DeAndre Hopkins in this offseason. And I still think you could have did it throughout the season in the offseason last year. Is receivers out there and moves to be made that can bring Aaron Rodgers back to the Packers and have the Packers right back in contention to have a great year. Because one thing that I don't really like is the celebration of this Aaron Rodgers' demise. I see the NFC North going wild right now. The old Aaron Rodgers done finally lost. yeah, I'm not really a fan of that. I just think that's weak. And I understand a dude like Aaron Rodgers torturing you for so long. You know, it could be easy to start to hate him and be like, oh, he's so arrogant and this and that. I mean, he got a right to be. The man literally has destroyed this division for a decade plus at this point. So it's not like he feel the way he feel for no reason. The man has absolutely dominated that division. And I really think he could come back and win that division next year if given the proper weapons. Listen, you can like Allen Lazard and Christian Watkins had a good game tonight. You can like these dudes as much as you want to. The fact of the matter is they just are not reliable enough receivers. Allen Lazard is a 3. Christian Watkins I think Christian Watkins is a 3 also, but he could be a great 2. I just don't think his hands is as great as a number 1 or a 2, but he could be a great slot, a great, dude that beat you down the field, which could be more to utilize if they had a number 1 and 2 receiver. Aaron Rodgers has got put in a situation this year where he didn't have number 1s or 2s, but he had to make Lazard and Christian Watson the number 1 and number 2. He had to take 2 3s and make them number 1s and 2s. So I understand all the frustrations. And listen, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I don't want to be turning around handing the fucking ball off to my running backs every damn game for 20 plus times a game either if I'm Aaron Rodgers, even if that is what's best for this team to win. I'm Aaron fucking Rodgers. And I understand I want the team to win, but I'm accustomed to this team winning because of me. I can't accept that I'm no longer good enough to lead this team to victory. That's where you are if you Aaron Rodgers. And I think he is still good enough to get his team to victory. I just don't think the weapons around him was good enough. Like, the more and more I analyze the season for the Packers, it really wasn't just Aaron Rodgers, or it wasn't as much of Aaron Rodgers as people might have thought it was. I really think a problem was how this team is constructed. The missing pieces that they should have been able to go out and get. The lack of going out and getting certain pieces. Like, I don't think Aaron Rodgers should retire, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did, because I do think when you put this on a balance, on a scale to weigh it out, I really do think it'd come out to Green Bay has done far more to not help Rodgers than Rodgers has done to not help himself or his team. Like, I just don't think, even for the people who try to use this season against Aaron, I just think he has done so much more good. Like, I still remember the defense giving up 30 plus points damn near a game a couple years back. I still remember that. And Aaron Rodgers was in his prime, balling out on a regular basis, having to go up against and barely getting touches with the ball because the defense letting teams gash him. Basically like what happened tonight. So it's hard for me to go too hard at Aaron Rodgers. Plus, just this is how I look at it. When you have a talent of the level of an Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, it's up on you. It's more on you to figure out how to win with that player than it is for that player to figure out how to win, because that player's talent is something that most teams don't get. You have been given something that most teams won't be able to have or get. Some franchises don't get a chance to have a player like this ever. You have to do your job building around this player. Point blank, period. Building a team sufficient enough to pick up the areas in which this quarterback cannot mask for us. I don't think Green Bay has always done that for Aaron Rodgers. So it's just hard for me to try to blame Aaron Rodgers for this team now. Listen, you play long enough, it's always going to end ugly. It's just how the game go. Unless you Peyton Manning, Ray Lewis, certain players get out of this thing unscathed, but or get out of this thing in a beautiful fashion, Michael Strahan. But for most players, legends included, it's an ugly ending when it ends. But I personally think Aaron Rodgers still got football left in the tank. Like, I don't think this should be. It's just hard for me to see Aaron Rodgers really wanting to leave Green Bay to go pack up and try to figure out a whole new organization, a whole new city. I just don't think Aaron Rodgers seemed like the type of person that want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he don't strike me as a dude who, like, yeah, let's go move to Vegas. Let's go move here or there to figure out, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe if it's the city that he live in the off season, that's different. I don't know where he live at in the off season, but he just don't strike me as that's the part of his career where he could just want to uproot and go play elsewhere. That's why I think the best chance of Aaron Rodgers coming back next year is going to be with Green Bay. And I think it's a chance. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he is going to retire at the end of the season. However, I do think they can get him back. He got another year on that contract. It'd be very hard to walk away from that much money on that contract that's left and a team that's good enough to win a Super Bowl. I just don't think the weapon, like I cannot remember the last time Green Bay like replenished this core of weapons. This is not a good receiving core, and you saw that once Devontae left. I kept talking about it last season, how I didn't think this was a good enough receiving core. Devontae just masked a lot of the problems. This year, it was very evident this was not a good enough receiving core. So I really think if they can figure out how to bring over at least 2 top-notch proven receivers that Aaron Rodgers know for a fact he could trust and bring in a third guy, I just think that could bring Aaron Rodgers back. And you already got the 2 running backs, which you should have traded one of them in order to bring in capital to be able to go make a trade for another top receiver, because you got 2 running backs, one of which would be able, both of them would be starters. You'd probably trade Aaron Jones because he would bring in more value, even though he's the older of the 2. What he could do for an offense, I believe a lot of offenses would want to bring an Aaron Jones in right now. Whereas Dylan is a running back. He is strictly a running back. I do not think he is a pull him out and let him catch it. He is not that type of guy. But it's a lot of things I think Green Bay could do in the offseason to get Aaron Rodgers back. The question is, will they be willing to do it? I don't think Green Bay is a team that's willing to go out and spend money on other teams' players. They rather build through the draft and hope that they hit with, cheap free agents. I just don't think that's going to work in order to bring Aaron Rodgers back, because he's not at the point in his career where he can say, okay, I have faith that these guys could become more than, he's not in the point no more where it's, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I can lift the sum of all. I can lift high. I am the tide that lifts all boats. It's not that no more. He might still feel that way about himself, but he's not naive enough to know that he need help now. And so if you don't bring in enough help, I just don't see Aaron Rodgers walking back through that door in the offseason. And I do believe he is 1 or 2 ways away from retiring, but I think you could get him back next year with a proper team. If you don't put the proper team away, then you just eliminated that last year that he possibly would have played. And I do think it'll be a retirement. So listen, and to the Detroit Lions, I know I talked a lot about Dan Campbell not being a good coach, and I think they should bring in a good coach and this and that. Listen, bro, my opinion on that haven't changed. Good for Dan Campbell and his Lions team finishing over 500. But this is not as much as I think actually my biggest thing is, I'm a Jared Goff. I'm not a Jared Goff believer, but I think you should bring Jared Goff back. For the simple reason you don't got the draft capital now, because you're going to be drafting not high enough to get a quarterback. But Jared Goff had a phenomenal season this year. I really think if you brought in an offensive minded head coach like a Sean Payton would work wonders for this team if he could improve. Like Dan Campbell to me is not getting this team to next year. This team could regress. That's just where I'm at. Like if they brought in a better, see right now people just like Dan Campbell. He more of a motivator type, so people gonna like him. He talk wild. It is what it is. And it's wild because most black dudes will never get this job being what Dan Campbell is. However, nonetheless, another head coach like a Sean Payton would have gotten his team to the playoffs. I'm just telling you factually what it is. This was a good enough offense that disappeared far too many times throughout the season. And I understand the defense was bad at times. The defense did turn it around. Aiden Hutchinson was a great pick. 9 sacks, 3 interceptions on the season, or 10 sacks, 3 interceptions on the season. That's a great season for your rookie. But as good as this team played this year, I could see them regressing next year. That's just the reality of it all. Because I don't trust Dan Campbell's coaching right now. I don't. And Chris Collinsworth was making a big deal about like this play towards the end of the game. He's like, man, you could call Dan Campbell this and that, but that's a smart play. I was like, not really, because at home I was saying to myself, yeah, I hope he declined this because he'll get an extra playoff. Because I thought that Matt LaFleur sent Buddy to do an offsides on purpose because it was 2nd and 1. And I'm like, why fight for that one when you could just make them start all over with a whole new set of downs without the clock starting? So I was like, if Dan Campbell's smart, he'll just decline this. And he declined it. So it was nothing it's not like a big brain smart play. It was just common sense. But nonetheless, I understand as fans who probably don't think that deep about the game, so they wouldn't have thought about it at all. However, to me, it was a common sense type of play. And like I said, not taking nothing away from Dan Campbell. He is a average head coach, who's getting hyped up by his team playing better than people thought they would play. But people keep telling me, what exactly did what was Dan Campbell's influence on this team that got them to win? Other than the motivation and all this, what strategically did Dan Campbell do that made this team as good as they were? Because I could give credit to the core offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator for turning it around halfway through the season, Jared Goff, Aiden Hutchinson, the running game. Like, what exactly am I supposed to be giving Dan Campbell credit for is what I want to know. Because I know for a fact if Sean Payton was the head coach of this team and this team played the way they did this year, they would have made the playoffs. So I'm not quite sure as to what I'm supposed to be praising Dan Campbell for, but that's neither here nor there. Shout out to them and the Lions for missing the playoffs, but at least finishing over 500. Whoop-de-fucking-do. I just think that was a team that was good enough to have made the playoffs. The Seahawks made the playoffs. The Seahawks ain't better than the Lions or the Packers, in my opinion. However, they made the playoffs because the Packers and the Lions lost games they should have won to get them there. I like the Seahawks in this little story they got going on. I would have been equally as happy if they missed the playoffs because of Pete Carroll, but Geno Smith didn't play, to me, a better season. He did become the leading passer in Seahawks history for a single season passer, I believe. But I don't care about that shit. Geno Smith, I don't trust more than I trust Jared Goff or Aaron Rodgers right now, even with how they playing. I just think Geno got two great weapons playing outside. However, it's tough to believe, and I'm going to get into the NFC playoffs in a different video, but seeing Geno have to play the Pack. Now, I believe San Fran would have ran through Detroit, Green Bay, and Seattle. So they had to play one of the three. So it really didn't matter who made it. I believe Seattle was going to run through. 49ers were going to run through them all anyways. But I really don't want to see Seattle play against the Seahawks for a third time. Because for some fucking reason, this division don't really play. I understand they've played close games, but this division also like to beat each other's ass when they play each other. Geno Smith, I do not believe will be good enough to play against a good game unless the defense for the 49ers come out there and play like they played against the Vegas team. I find it hard to believe that Seattle will be able to do anything of significance against this defense, which is why I would have preferred to see the Lions or the Packers make the playoffs against those two teams. Now, the interesting thing about the Packers is that was an up in the air one too, because the Lions would have been the team I would have preferred to see just because of how the offense is playing. But the Packers would have probably lost because they just lose to the 49ers. However, you still could have had a chance at Aaron Rodgers pulling off a vintage Aaron Rodgers game. Also, let's say the 49ers defense struggled. And see, here's my problem. The 49ers defense can struggle against the Seahawks, and I think they'll still win that game. They struggle against the Lions. That could be a potential L. They struggle against the Packers. That could be a potential L. I don't think the Seattle Seahawks offense is a quarter type of offense that would have put the pressure on Seattle. That would have put the pressure on the 49ers. Plus, they get to play these motherfuckers 3 times this year, so that would have hurt them. Whereas these other two offenses, if the Packers run game somehow find a way to dominate, well, that's just going to open it all the way up for the Packers offense. And I believe that could have led them to a win over the 49ers. And you don't come to play against the Lions offense, even though it feel more like the offense for the Lions don't come to play in big games for a while rather than the other way around. That could have also been a potential L. So I would have preferred to see them two matchups, but nonetheless, you get the Seahawks because the Packers didn't do what they were supposed to do. But pertaining to Aaron Rodgers, because this is an Aaron Rodgers video, I don't think he should retire. I'm not really one of those people who like to push legends out the door quicker than they came in. Because because you miss these motherfuckers when they don't play. Plus, I don't think franchises really should be in a rush to push dudes out the window. Like I said, if it'd be a completely different story if I thought this entire year was just Aaron Rodgers playing bad. I don't really think it was just Aaron Rodgers playing bad. Yeah, he had moments where he didn't make the best of throws. He couldn't, but I could chalk that up to him being 38 years old, 39 years old. The lack of weapons around him, to me, and then I be seeing people say, well, they gave him Randall Cobb. Bro, that was the least they gave him because that's the least he asked for. I mean, when we are celebrating teams for giving a franchise quarterback like Aaron Rodgers the least he asked for, because you feel like, bro, we gave you Devontae Adams when that was a dude you drafted. It's not like you went out and actually had to go get him. You drafted him. Like, you didn't have to go spend big to go bring in Devontae Adams from another team. That's a move you never had to make because of the greatness of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I just don't understand teams like the Packers, bro. Constantly not spending money, but constantly being broke. Because to me, that type of thing is... See, people like to blame players for their shortcomings and whatnot. I can make an argument. If Aaron Rodgers was on a team that actually spent money on him, he would have had more than one Super Bowl appearance and more than one Super Bowl ring. But when you get put on a team where not only did they draft you, but now it's like, oh, we drafted you. Well, he done paid you back for drafting him 10 times over. At one point in time, do the fans hold a team accountable for their shortcomings? Because Aaron Rodgers with a different team is a multi-time Super Bowl visitor, at least. Because it was teams out there that clearly would have spent money to get Aaron Rodgers more than one receiver. And they might not have got him a Devontae Adams, but they would have made sure he always had competent receivers at his side. They would have made sure the defense was good enough and not blowing up 30 points a game. Like, to me, when you look at how some of these quarterbacks, now I'm not going to never use the Bengals because Joe Burrow did slide into that situation where the Bengals were so bad they were able to have 3 number 1 type receivers. But for most teams, they got to go out there and spend and work hard to put talent around their quarterbacks. And they do. I think the Packers for too long was too dependent on Aaron Rodgers to figure it out. He good enough. And when you do that, it start to eventually, when he can't get through it become, oh, well, he not clutch. Oh, well, he not better than Brady. Oh, well, he fraudulent. Oh, Aaron fraud. Like, it start to become demeaning. You start to go at the player when in actuality, the organization didn't do enough. And you could point to all the good things that they did do. But these motherfuckers drafted Jordan Love with the first pick, with their first round pick in the draft a couple years ago. They didn't trade that to go bring in another receiver. They didn't use that on a receiver at the time. They used it to bring in Jordan Love. What quarterback don't request a trade at that moment? Do you know how ignorant of a franchise you have to be to have Aaron Rodgers, who only went on to win 2 MVPs after that, and waste a first round draft pick on a quarterback when you have a top quarterback in the game right now? That's telling you that the player and the team was on 2 different agendas. The team was worried about moving on down the future. The player was worried about winning now. When you have a player on that agenda and a team on that agenda, how can you blame the player? The fans want to win. So you should be siding with Aaron Rodgers. Ultimately, though, you see players side with the team. And that don't make sense because the Packers are the reason that Aaron Rodgers has had these shortcomings. That was proven when they drafted Jordan Love. This was a team that cared more about down the line than right now. Aaron Rodgers ain't got that type of time. That's how you know they was wasting away his career, just absorbing the checks and the money that he brought in, the sales that he brought in for the team. But I don't hear nobody talking about that. While he out there putting his body on the line week after week after week after week. But you got the media who will get on TV and go at him for how he act or his character, or he not the best team leader and all these other type of things. I mean, well, look at what the fuck this man done had to work with over the years. He had to be a great team leader long enough to not call these motherfuckers to the floor on all the bullshit that they was pulling. And now, when he finally did start calling the Packers to the floor for it, eventually it turned into people going at him saying he was a problem. It don't pay to be quiet that long, and it don't pay to talk eventually. That's what I learned. Because Aaron Rodgers, in all honesty, could make a great case that his career was wasted because of the Packers. He could have won far more than just individual awards if the Packers had decided to spend the money and go out and win. But they didn't. And so, listen, a great example is you go out and spend money to bring in Charles Woodson. That turned into a Super Bowl. And then you wait years to go do that again. And when you finally do start to bring in talents like Zadarius Smith, you see how that start to evolve. And instead of building on that, you continue to just bring in defensive players. Rather than, okay, we found the key on defense. Now let's get Aaron Rodgers another top weapon to take this over the top. I don't know how that's how some teams think, but not a team that's got Aaron fucking Rodgers think. That's just weird to me. So to basically put all this in a nice little bow, I don't think Aaron Rodgers should retire, but I wouldn't blame him if he did, and I wouldn't be shocked if he did, because I think that's what he is probably leaning towards doing, because I just don't see him wanting to suit up for another team at this point in time in his career. But I also don't see him wanting to walk back through those doors of Green Bay if he don't know for a fact the team he is stepping on the offensive side of the ball give him as much a chance to win as any other team, not in the NFC, in the NFL. Because he ain't just going against the NFC. Ultimately, he gonna have to beat the best team in the NFL, in the NFL period, if it ain't them. So, including the AFC. So if he can look at this Packers offense and say, yeah, those three receivers, because I think it's going to take more than just one receiver. Those group of receivers right there give me a significantly better chance at winning than what I had coming into this season. Then I truly believe he would come back for another year. If that is not the case, I think 12 has ridden his last rodeo. I think that is the end for him. And it'll be unfortunate because I do ultimately think that Green Bay wasted more of his career than Aaron Rodgers wasted more of their money. Because I don't think Aaron Rodgers wasted none of their money at all. Like I said, I'm not holding a season in which he was 39 years old with no legitimate number one receiver at his disposal. And I'm going to say, oh, yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers' fault. It's not going to happen. But with that, congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks on making the playoffs. It really would be sad if Aaron Rodgers retired, because I really don't want him to go out like this. I like to see great players, legendary players go out with a bang, not necessarily winning a championship, but having a great year. If Brady had retired last year, he had a great year. So it would have been fine. But also Brady, for the first time since being a starter, finished under 500 because the Tampa Bay Bucks lost today. But with that being said, I appreciate y'all for joining me on another episode of Kicking It with Saint. Tell somebody you fuck with him. Tell somebody you love him. In a world where you can be anything, choose to be kind to somebody today. Fucking up my words. Tell somebody you fuck with him. Tell somebody you love him. Saint out.
I got the moves like hot sauce. Lil' mama taking the top off. I'm laying down getting topped off. After this, you know she getting knocked off. I know she loving the money, so I keep on thumbing and thumbing. She say she horny when she taking shots, so I keep them coming and coming. Now I'm putting dick in her tummy, scoop her up like I'm raking her something. You would think shawty red track, the way that she running and running. You getting dumber and dumber, you out here chasing the bone. After she finished from giving me dome, the Uber is taking her home. Tight.